For some additional perspective on this story, joining us from San Diego is Paul Kedrosky, editor of the blog Infectious Greed, a widely read technology blog. Paul is also a Bloomberg contributor. So, Paul, first of all, this news about a possible wedding marriage of AOL and Yahoo. Does 1 + 1 = 2, or are these desperate measures?
Desperate measures. If I get to pick A or B, I pick B. I mean, this is the classic, tie two bricks together and throw them and see if they fly. They don't fly. They never have. They won't in the future. I mean, I congratulate, Tim Armstrong to the extent that he's been able to find. I used to think he only had two paths out. Was, one, he gets fired if he doesn't sell AOL. Two, he gets fired if he does sell AOL because a private equity firm replaces him. And it turns out I was missing option 3, which is that he convinces someone else to buy it and becomes the CEO, which proves Tim's much more clever than I am.
Exactly. How poorly do you think the whole situation with Arrington and TechCrunch and the Crunch Fund reflects on AOL and Tim Armstrong in terms of how they handled it and kind of botched the announcement?
Oh, I mean, entirely. I mean, the actual financials here involved are, de minimis. It's a tiny money involved. But what it goes to is this question that, AOL on an operating basis is a reasonable facsimile of Days of Our Lives. It's not a particularly credible public operating company, as evidenced by this mass confusion about, what did Arianna Huffington know about this decision? When did she know about it? Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. Tim knew all along. Did he tell Arianna? Stay tuned tomorrow and we'll all find out more. And as a result, at the end of it all, the perversity of this is, and I haven't seen anyone say this, is probably this is the best marketing Mike could ever get for his new fund that he could possibly imagine, because at the end of the day, you're not allowed to go out and promote a fund that hasn't closed, and so everyone else is doing it for him. It's a fabulous thing.
Not surprising that Michael Arrington knows how to market himself.
Oh, yeah.
Where does this leave Yahoo, though? We've seen a lot of heat directed towards the chairman of the board, Roy Bostock. Even though Carol Bartz is already out, is the board in trouble there?
Oh, absolutely. You know who nailed it was yesterday, that great letter from Dan Loeb, which, laid out exactly the issue, that what we have here is, calling them toothless is charitable. A toothless board that, even, what did Carol call them, doofuses or something? I mean, Dan didn't quite go that far, but pretty much said the same things in so many words that, we've got a combination of cronies of Carol's, which for better or for worse, are going to have to go, even if they should never have been there in the first place, and then others who've demonstrated sort of serial incompetence, which, ordinarily would be justification for getting rid of them, and apparently wasn't in this case. So I see a wholesale board turnover. And the nice thing was Loeb's letter provided a really nice fulcrum for making that happen. And it actually made me think that, you kind of have to own Yahoo right in here, because you're seeing the right messages. The activists show up, big changes on top. And then all of a sudden we get this massive confound of, they're going to put Tim Armstrong in charge. It's like, oh my God, run. What are we going to do next? Who else is going to be nominated to be in charge of this thing?
Paul, anything that gets Dan's poison pen out is a great thing, but he's looking at this as a thing of value. Where do you see value in Yahoo?
Well, I mean, you guys nailed it a little bit. The two big pieces, obviously, the Asian assets and the resurgence in the display advertising business. I think those are the two major pieces. One of which, the Asian assets, I think, aren't adequately reflected at all in the share price. And the resurgence in display advertising, to the extent that you can cut costs, and some of the other pieces of Yahoo that are really going no place at all, like MapQuest and things like that. There are a lot of pieces of the business that could be peeled away, and you're left with a reasonable cash-producing asset. But it is entirely a value play. This is not about bringing back some visionary leader who finds a future for Yahoo. That's not what, as you imply, what Dan was thinking, and I don't think what anybody should be thinking at this point. Sadly, those days are over.
But could it be the kind of declining asset that AOL's dial-up business is, for example, something that had some relevance, will throw off cash until it ultimately loses all that relevance and just goes away?
No, I don't think so, because unlike the AOL dial-up business, which has been this remarkable sticky business that just hung on forever, the display advertising marketplace, both on the desktop and as we sort of mutate or migrate to mobile, isn't going anyplace at all. As a matter of fact, is going to continue to grow and maybe even accelerate a bit. So this could actually see some accidental acceleration in the business, despite all the missteps that have been made along the path. So at some point in the future, it may be that declining asset. Right now, there actually is a reasonable, growing cash generating asset underneath this giant mess.
Now, Paul, we're also learning today that former Groupon employees, salespeople, have filed a class action lawsuit against Groupon. Some of the comments we're seeing about working at Groupon on the website Glassdoor: immense pressure to hit unrealistic sales goals. Sales staff cries all the time. high turnover. I mean, the bad news is really just piling on for Groupon. You know, what's your take on this?
Yeah, shocker. Groupon, bad place to work. Who would have thought that would happen? You know, I don't even know what to think.
Paul, is it a problem for their IPO? That's already been delayed.
Oh, sure. This is just another example of how we have an organization engineered for a particular exit, and that particular exit is the IPO exit. And the way you get there is by putting unreasonable objectives in front of people until you produce numbers that you think will get you to the point where the market value is such that you can go out, go public, and sell shares. And that's all of the symptoms you would expect from a company designed by central casting for an IPO, and then designed by short sellers for probably the short of the century thereafter. The question now is for the company, can they actually make it to that exit given all of this? And I think it's 50-50 at best at this point.
50-50 at best. All right, Paul Kedrosky joining us from San Diego. Thanks so much for being here on Bloomberg West.
Sure.